Kids, you can be dismissed to go to Children's Church at this time. Tim, again, thank you so much for learning that and performing that for us through this series. I love that song. I grew up with that song. Like I mentioned at the start of this series, that song was written in 1973. And it was a song that was accumulated of words of advice from two women who had greatly impacted the two authors' lives. And one of the things that I've loved about this in this whole series is this opportunity to identify the great people in our lives, the people that pour into us and love on us. And this morning, as a continuation, oh, hi Leland, how are you? She is loving life this morning. Do you want a high five before you go to Children's Church? Give me a 5. All right. Before you leave, Mr. Renee, will you wave at everyone? This morning, as we start off, I've been trying to retrain myself. One of the things that I don't do that great all the time, but starting the service with just a moment of gratitude. And Miss Renee is the person that I wanted to thank this morning. She's looking at me like I'm crazy. You can go. You're fine. I can talk about you behind your back. Miss Renee has just a burden for the children in our community and in this church. And she demonstrates that every time the doors are open. She takes on work in the nursery every now and then, which is definitely not her favorite. She works with all of our young little 4-year-old girls and boys that are here in the church, and she does that Sunday mornings for Sunday school. She does it Sunday mornings before Sunday school even begins. She does it every Wednesday night without fail. And she is just an amazing woman of God, and she does all that with great frustration and with very little complaining. So thank you, Miss Renee. So our series on Simple Man, Simple Faith wraps up this morning. This morning, we're going to look at the overall challenge to just try to live a simple life. And what that means in James chapter 5, as James wraps up the series and wraps up his book, what does he have for that last word of advice for the readers? What does he have for that last bit of advice for the church? And so that's where we're going to look this morning. We're going to open that up, and it's not as long as some of the chapters we've read, but I want to open it up the way that we have the last few weeks, and we're going to read a few of those verses that come together, and we'll take a moment, we'll talk about that, and then we'll kind of move on. I believe that James gives us 4 pieces of advice for how to live a simple life. And so let's look at those. In chapter 5, verse 7 through 11, he says this: be patient. So let's just take a moment. Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. You too, be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. Don't grumble against one another, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. The judge is standing at the door. Brothers and sisters, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. As you know, we count as blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. So the first thing that we need to take away is be patient is right now. Probably the greatest lies that Satan has for us is when things are on top of the world, he lies and says it's going to always be that way. So the next time there's a bump in the road, next time there's a valley, we get frustrated because shouldn't life always be grand? Well, that is a great lie. The other lie is that when we are in the valley, when we are down on our luck and we are going through hard times, Satan says it's always going to be this way. And it causes us to want to give up. It causes us to get depressed and to feel like the world is coming to an end. And both of those are great lies, because here's the truth. In our lifetimes, there are 5 to 10 times that we will be on an absolute peak, a mountaintop experience. You know, when you're married, when you have a kid, when these amazing things happen, that first time you meet your future spouse or whatever, you know, you've had those great elation moments. When you graduate high school, when you graduate college, when life is awesome. But then there are also those times, there are just 5 to 10 of those that are down in the bottom of the barrel. Losing someone you love. Losing a job, losing something of great value. But those times where we just find ourselves so deep in despair that we don't know where to speak. In fact, Hebrews talks about it in this way at one point in time. It says, there are times that the world is so dark that I don't even have words to say and my soul grumbles. But God hears it. And so there are those moments, but the rest of our lives, for the most part, is somewhere in the middle, and we have a lot of little ups and downs. We have a lot of things that go up and down like that. They're not huge, they're not horrible, but they are ups and downs. And if we are patient, if we can learn to just be patient, the good times will return again. If we just learn to be patient, the world will right itself as the Spirit works in our lives. It usually doesn't happen overnight. So James's first word of advice coming into this final of how to live a simple life is learn patience. Now, have any of you ever prayed for patience? All right, here's the problem with praying for patience. God does not ever just grant you patience, like poof. What he does is he gives you opportunity to exercise patience. Well, that seems like the opposite of a blessing. But if you just decide that nothing in this world is so important that you have to rush to get there, then life will become a whole lot simpler. Let's keep reading. James chapter 5, verse 12 says, above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear, not by heaven or by earth or by anything else. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Otherwise, you will be condemned. Now, this is a very interesting passage. It's one that's taken a bunch of ways, but here's where I take it. Be honest. Honest people don't have to convince anyone that they are honest. Now, have you ever entered into a conversation with someone and they go, oh, I swear, I promise on the grave of my great-grandmother that this can't be read any other way, but I tell you, without fail, this is the only way it could have happened. You know what my instincts do in that moment? Whatever they're about to tell me is a lie. You know, I double dog swear, I've never, come on. We should become people of honesty, so much so that there's no need to embellish how honest we are. There's no need to triple down on whatever it is we say. What we are is honest people, and when we say we're going to do something, we do it. And if you will simply live by that, just be honest. If you can't do something, simply say, I can't. The worst thing you can do to tell someone how good you are or how great you are is to tell them something, to overpromise and underdeliver. My hopes always for all of you is to underpromise and overdeliver. I might tell you it's going to be tight. I may not make it. I want you to be aware of that. I just don't want to get your hopes up. And then if I say all of that and I show up, woohoo! At least I hope you're happy to see me. But, you know, so in that, we have to become people who don't have to embellish anything. That our honesty is what people know us by. So let's keep reading. James 5, 13 through 18. Is anyone among you in trouble? Let them pray. Is anyone happy? Let them sing a song of praise. Is anyone among you sick? Let them call of the elders of the church to pray over them and anoint them with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well. The Lord will raise them up. If they have sinned, they will be forgiven. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you will be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Elijah was a human being, even as we are. He prayed earnestly that it would not rain, and it did not rain on the land for 3.5 years. Again, he prayed, and the heavens gave rain, and the earth produced its crop. So the third thing we should simply do is be people of prayer. How many times in life do we do everything in our own power to address a problem, only to eventually realize it's out of our hands anyway? And so as a last resort, we go, okay, God, well, I couldn't do it, so here you go. What would it be like if any time a situation arose, if that was our first response? Hey, God, if you want me to handle this, I need your wisdom. If you want this to work out, I'm going to need your patience. If you're going to fix this, I hope you can do it outside of me. But if you need me, I'm here. Think about how much that would change. I'm pretty sure I've shared with you guys before that when I was fresh out of college, I worked for 3.5 years at a bank. And I liked my job. It was okay, but I had one boss that just was not a nice person. I would think it could have been just me that didn't think he was nice, except for I've never met anyone that thought he was nice. But I had my pastor at the time. I was just beginning a call to ministry, and I had my pastor who was mentoring me tell me to start praying for him. And of course, for the first 6 months, my prayers were all about, God, change his heart, make him nice, do this, do that. And it was all focused on what I wanted God to do to him. What happened in the next 6 months was God began to break my heart. And God began to change me, not him. By the time I left my job, this guy encouraged me to go into ministry. He saw something in me. I don't think I could have done that. I don't think, had I continued to be praying for God to change him, that this would have happened. But what happened in the next 6 months, in that second 6 months of praying for him, was my prayers began to change. God, help our relationship. I can't fix what's broken. You got to help me. And in the process, I began to see the brokenness that was in this individual. I began to see the difficulties in relationships that they had across the board, and I began to understand that when he was mean to me, it was usually because he had just gotten yelled at by someone else. And I began to see the frustration and the brokenness, and what happened was God didn't change his life. God changed my heart. And so if we want to be people of simplicity, we have to be people of prayer. Next, James chapter 5, verses 19 through 20. And this is how he closes the whole book. My brothers and sisters, if one of you should wander from the truth and someone should bring that person back, remember this. Whoever turns a sinner from the error of their ways will save them from death and cover over a multitude of sins. And so James's final advice is to be loving. Be people of love. Love people enough to tell them the truth in love. Now, I've met those people before who will tell you they have God's gift for telling the truth. But it starts something like this. Trey, you made me mad. That statement in and of itself does not help anything. That statement doesn't help me know how I made you mad. That statement doesn't tell me what I can do to fix anything. All I know is that I made you mad. And if that truth is followed up by a beration of insults, it didn't help anybody do anything. Maybe that person feels a whole lot lighter. Maybe they're not carrying it anymore. And if you ever need to do that, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying let me know from the beginning, I just need to get this off my chest. And at that point in time, I can sit in for the worst typhoon that's ever been seen. I'm okay with that. But if you got to realize that I'm a guy, number one, and guys are fix-its, right? We're not typically emote-driven people. We're fix-it people. One time when Amy and I first got married, she was in a job that was really tough. And we learned in our first year of marriage to have this conversation. Whenever she would come home and she'd be frustrated, do you want me to listen or do you want me to fix it? And it saved me a lot of trouble. So guys, if your wife ever comes home and she wants to talk about her frustrations of the day, that's a really good question. Do you want me to listen or do you want me to fix it? And women, you might want to ask the same question, because sometimes the guy is coming home and he really wants help with it. He's not looking to just get his emotions out. That's not particularly a doodly thing to do. So, is that a word? That worked, right? A guy thing to do? So what happened was, then Amy would come home and she would start to vent, and I would go, whoa. You want me to listen or you want me to fix it? And she'd go, I just want you to listen today. All right, cool, I'm in it. You know, but if she asks any other time, I'm going to start offering ways to fix that, and that's not always the best thing. But if someone's coming to me, my typical question is, how can we fix that problem? I probably can't do it on my own. It's going to come through prayer and honesty and love. But if we will talk about it, we can work through whatever that is. And I think that's the case in all relationships. When I get asked to perform a wedding, there's something that I always require. If I'm asked to do a wedding, I always require 3 to 5 visits in at least the next 4 months before the wedding. And I do that for a big reason. I believe that communication is the absolute core of every relationship. I believe that no divorce happens unless communication shuts down. And I believe that no love can be sustained without communication that's constant. Now, that doesn't mean it's always positive hoorah communications. So we have to learn how to talk, and we have to learn how to argue. I think that is a learned trait. We have to learn how to argue. If you argue with throwing pots and pans and you argue with throwing insults and hurt, that's not a productive way to argue. But if you start with things like, it hurt my feelings when you did this, and you're able to back up and get into the conversation of that, then there's all of a sudden a roadmap to try to figure things out. And I believe that's the key to all relationships. I believe it's not just a marriage relationship that learns from that, but it's every relationship. And so for us, when we become people of love and we go and we tell people the truth about what we see in them, we also ought to be prepared to walk with. If you're not willing to walk through that process with them, maybe you're not the right person to tell them the truth. And if you're not willing to say it to their face, what'd your mom always tell you? If you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say nothing. Stop. If you're not the right person, if you don't have a relationship to talk to that person and walk through that situation with them, the best thing for you to do is go back to the previous step, become a person of prayer. And maybe over time, God will break your heart to the place that you are the right person. But until your heart is broken for them and you can honestly love them and love them to health, you're not the right person. And so this is really the big part of how James wants to end this time together with these people. He wants to challenge them to be the best them that they can be. He wants to see them take the simplicity of what Jesus' message is and make it a simple way of life. Because let's back up just a moment. Who did Jesus come to? This guy James. This guy who was probably Jesus' brother, who grew up with the Messiah. How would you like that one in the house growing up? Oh, I can't do nothing right. Jesus gets it all right. I can just imagine this, how this would play out in life. James is coming to the same people that Jesus went to. Jesus went to people who were people of the law. And people of the law begin to take and pick apart every aspect of the law. But the law can't love. Only people can love. The law was simply a list of rules. And the truth of the matter is, there were only so many rules in the law because people needed specific examples of how to deal with the 10 big ones. Those that were literally written in stone. So when people said, well, I don't know how to not murder my neighbor because they just did this. Okay, well, if they kill your cow, then you can chop off their hand or whatever. If they steal from you and they make this, then this is what you can do. So that you don't stick back into this wild, wild west mentality of they wronged me, so I kill them, which is what the rest of the world was doing. It was literally an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And even that passage, Jesus comes back and goes, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I tell you, man, if you look at somebody with hatred in your heart, if you look at someone and you've lusted after them, if you look at someone and you've thought murderous thoughts in your mind, if you look at people and you have coveted what they have, you've already done those things. Jesus, the whole reason he came is he's coming to people who have loved the law more than they've loved people. They have made the law what determines whether they make it into heaven or not. And Jesus goes, look, if we'll get back to the heart of the person, we don't really have to worry too much about the law. And so that's where James is coming into this. And here's when it comes down to it, this is kind of the question: will we be patient, honest, prayerful, and loving? And this is what John had to say. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Guys, if we will be people of patience, if we will be people of honesty, if we will be people of prayerfulness and of loving, you don't have to be an evangelist for people to hear about Jesus in your life. Because your mere actions will speak the truth. The way you love people will set you apart. And here's the thing, guys. Loving people is a lot different than just ending every interaction with God bless you. This is the South. What does that typically mean? Oh, bless their hearts. Oh, I'm so sorry they're so dumb. That's how we tend to use it. But loving people and showing them Christ is not about words. St. Francis was a very well-known monk, I guess, if you will. He was a saint. He's named. We got a hospital here named after him. His full name was St. Francis of Assisi, not Assisi like a little girl, but Assisi was the place he was from. But St. Francis kind of became the patron saint for which we actually have the creche, the manger scene that we have today. There are animals that are around there because St. Francis was the one who saw that all of creation should have been rejoicing at the good news of Jesus. And so he is considered to be the patron saint of pets. So I don't know how that got him on hospitals and all that kind of stuff, but he saw the love of Christ as the true way. And his statement says this. He says, I will share the gospel 1,000 times a day, and if I must, I will use words. Now think about that. Think about that. I will share the gospel 1,000 times a day, and if I must, only if I must, will I use words. So how is he telling the gospel? He's loving people. He's meeting them where they're at. He is going in with patience. He's not expecting them to turn around their life in one moment. He is patient. And he goes in with truth and honesty. He goes in with prayerfulness. And he goes in loving. And when that happens, people will see something different in you than what they see in the rest of the world. People will see a God in you, a Christ in you, that will cause them to start asking questions. Lee, why did you do that? That's not normal. Nobody would just pull over on the side of the road and change an old lady's tire. But it happened. Well, I did it because I serve a God who loves me. You know, we get called to do extraordinary things in unorthodox situations sometimes. But that's what love is like. Love is getting a phone call and deciding, you know what I'm doing is unimportant compared. And so I go. For you guys, just so you're aware, Miss Karen Robertson, Ray, I don't know if you mentioned that in the prayer time this morning or not. That's okay. Miss Karen Robertson, who works in our nursery as part of our congregation, she had an injection in her knee this week, and all of a sudden it just got really, really painful. She went to the doctor. They ended up doing emergency surgery to clean her knee out from infection and gout. Went to see her Friday night for surgery, went and saw her yesterday and talked to her for a little while, and she's basically been told by the doctor that she is just weird. She's got an infection that they can't identify, and so as people of prayer, we need to be praying for her in that situation, praying for the doctors that they will see that. But could any of us have said, you know, I'm a little too busy to go see her? All of us could have said that. But when you love, you do. And that's just how we should be. We should be people that should not have to ask for permission to love on someone. We should just go do it. And so this morning, as we come to a close, I'm going to let you out early today. I think James would have loved that. James said, keep the message simple. Go in. Be patient with people. Things don't happen overnight. Be honest with people. Don't have to embellish your swear. I swear to you, I'm telling the truth. You don't have to do that. Just be honest. Be prayerful. Let it be your first response, not your last response. And be loving. Meet people where they are and love them enough to not leave them there. Next week, when we come together, we are going to be blessed as Mercy Multiplied is going to be here. One of their young ladies that is going through their program is going to share. If you're newer to our congregation and don't know who Mercy Multiplied is, they are an in-home facility for women who are going through abuse and addiction issues. And we actually have two people who currently work at Mercy who go to our congregation here, and a third person who worked there. I don't know, how long did Dana work there? Sounds like it was at least 40 years or so. Part-time probably. But we have been, our congregation has been intertwined with them for a long time, and next week we're gonna have them here, and we're gonna celebrate them being here. And so I want to make sure that you know that, and you can come back tonight. Tonight we're gonna be here with 300 of our closest relatives. We have a unity service for the Church of God congregations all over Northeast Louisiana. So we invite you to come back and be here tonight, 6 o'clock. Please, you may want to get here early if you want a close seat. You're not going to be watching me pray, give the sermon or lead singing. So you probably want to get close. You get tired of me. I get that. But was that a clap? Like a bottle shook, but I got a little self-conscious there for a moment. We don't like to hear Trey. Yay! Anyway, sorry. There's that ADD kicking in. But tonight, Brother Dalen Helbling out of Bastrop First Church of God is going to be bringing the sermon, and Brother Micah Sasser, who is the worship pastor, coming and leading worship. It's going to be a very exciting time, so come and be here. We've got, Brother Ray mentioned, we've got a reception for Brother Ray Jones, who's going to be moving to Princeton, West Virginia next week. This Wednesday night, we're canceling service to encourage everyone to go down to Camp Pollock Wednesday night for the service down there. We'd love to have you meet us up down there. And if you'd like more information on that, surely see me after service. I think I'm covering all your announcements. Sorry, Kenny. What's the one more? Grace Place? All right. So next Sunday, like I mentioned, we'll have Mercy here. And then on the Monday after that, we have an opportunity to serve at Grace Place, which is a soup kitchen, which is a misnomer because we don't ever serve soup. We serve way better food than soup, but we would invite you to come if you'd like to be a part of cooking that meal with Brother Kenny and I. Come at 9 o'clock in the morning. If you'd like to be there and help serve, come in around 11, and we'll get you placed at a place to serve there, and just be a part of loving on the less fortunate here in Monroe. Anything else I'm missing? Guys, you are awesome. Yes. Oh, yes. Brother Cootie, Ron Cootie, is our missionary to Turkey, to the Muslim country of Turkey. And he is in town this summer on furlough, visiting some of the churches, seeing people that support them. On Sunday, August the 18th, Brother Ron is going to be here, and he is going to have a Sunday school time that's going to be more conversational, where we can talk about the missions that's there, and then he's going to be bringing the sermon this morning so he can share with the whole congregation the big picture of his heart and his mission and his ministry. And so we have a lot going on. So I'm very excited about all of the mission opportunities that we have. So you don't want to miss a single Sunday coming up. What you got? They're telling me to hang on a second. So I need to dance a jig while we're waiting. Oh, yeah. Meet you at the school, which is kind of a misnomer of things. That's going to make you think that we're meeting at schools. We're not. What we're going to do is on August 11th, which is the Sunday right before school starts, we're going to meet up here, and I'm going to ask you to do the unthinkable. Would you come really comfortable in like shorts and t-shirts that Sunday? What? The reason is because we're going to gather together. We're going to sing a couple songs here, and then we're going to go to 10 of the local schools. We're going to split up into groups, and we're going to go to 10 of the local schools and pray for the school systems here in Ouachita Parish, where our students attend. And we're going to have opportunities. If you physically cannot go out, you go, "Ooh, it's too hot to be out there." That's okay. We're going to have an opportunity for you to be here in prayer as well. We're going to have cards for the principals and superintendents of the school system that you can sign and pray for them as well. And we're going to do that and go out and pray for our local communities. And so that's going to be another ministry mission opportunity that's coming up on August 11th. So over the next month, put on your mission shoes, because we're going to have opportunities to exercise a lot. We could use anyone's help that would like to help us set up for the Unity service tonight. We got an extra 50 chairs or so here. But God bless you all. Thank you so much for your love, your heart, your dedication, your listening, your attention span, and all of that fun stuff. Go out there and show them heaven. Go out there and be the eyes and ears and the feet and hands of Christ. May God bless you. You are dismissed.